Hello, everyone. It's Tommy Lee Hayes Brown with Rito Recognition. I'm happy today to introduce my colleague, Roy Saunderson. He's going to share with us some tips on how to keep your recognition ideas fresh and inspiring, which is a great topic with spring right around the corner. A lot of us are taking what we've done and developed as recognition programs and trying to, do some first quarter cleanup and inject some life into our program. So this is a very timely and topical subject. Roy is our Chief Learning Officer. He's a key recognition strategist and a global thought leader in the employee recognition space. Roy is also the author of many articles and books. He's very prolific, including his latest, Practicing Recognition, the first in his series of practical and strategic books on giving recognition the right way. Roy is a regular contributor to Training Magazine and Incentive Magazine, and was chosen as one of the 25 most influential people in the incentive industry in 2017 and 18. As one of the world's foremost thought leaders in employee recognition and engagement, Roy consults with educators and leaders and employee workforces all around the world, lending his advice and helping those organizations reach their potential. Today, Roy's going to share with us again how to keep your recognition ideas fresh and inspiring. But before I turn over to Roy, just a couple housekeeping items. If you have any questions, go ahead and submit them by using the button on your left side of your screen, and I'll collect those as Roy's giving us doing his webinar, and then I'll come back in a bit, and if we have any questions or comments, I'll share those with you and Roy. So without further ado, my friend, my colleague, Roy Saunderson.
Thanks very much, Tommy Lee, and it's good to be with everyone. Yes, I kind of came up with this topic a while ago now on how to keep your recognition ideas fresh and inspiring in order to be able to kind of look at the communications that we develop around recognition. So I hope that these ideas will benefit you and kind of stimulate some new thoughts for you on what you do in your communications around recognition. So obviously, always love to set the stage, and where do you currently get your ideas from is kind of like the question I want to pose to you. And we want recognition to happen throughout our organization on a consistent basis. And how do we renew the ideas? Where do we get that refreshing that goes on that we need so that people don't feel it's the same old, same old? All right, so we don't want that repeating of the same recognition messages that we put out. We should certainly want to encourage people to give recognition, use our recognition programs. But how do we inspire people? I think that's a word that we don't often use. We kind of go through the rote, mechanical side of communicating about the importance of recognition, and we don't necessarily capture the inspiration that's required. So let's kind of explore some ideas, will we? And let's have a look. Fresh and inspiring. I think of going to the grocery store and we get fresh vegetables, and inspiring. I want to kind of wake up motivated, and especially from a recognition point of view, I want to know how I can be motivated to give recognition, to kind of, I know I have the abilities, I can learn how to do that, but how do you motivate and encourage people to give recognition? So I have some ideas for you, and I hope you'll like them and benefit from them. The first thing I think we need to look at is creating a recognition communication plan. And in fact, this is one communication plan is the kind of the fourth strategy from Recognition Professionals International on one of their best practice standards. So they have it as a best practice standard that we should have a communication plan centered on employee recognition. And so what I want to encourage you is that you don't just create a plan willy-nilly. Let's do this and we'll throw this on the wall like spaghetti and see if it sticks. And no, we're going to have a plan here. We're going to have an overall purpose for what we want to achieve. So I want you to kind of define what it is you want to achieve with your recognition communication plan. Create a purpose statement. Write it out, articulate it, so that you and your communication team know exactly what it is that you're working on. And you need to make sure that your communications are focused on recognition practices, the offline, face-to-face, written, handwritten kind of communications, as well as your recognition programs that you want to encourage people to use. Now, next, you've got to create some goals. So it's kind of nice to have those kind of nice, fancy purpose statement. It's got to be more than just fancy. It's got to be meaningful, direct. But you've also got to set some goals. What do you want to have happen through your communications? How do you want recognition to improve? How do you want people to feel? How do you want people to be motivated? How many times do you want people to give recognition? What's the frequency that you're expecting? So think about the goals you want to set and think about how you're going to measure those activities, those communications, the success that you want. And how many communication mediums are you going to utilize to give more meaningful recognition within your organization? How can you get this across? So when you're starting to think of the big picture, you start to think a little bit more objectively of what you want to achieve and what you can realistically achieve, because not all companies, organizations have a communications team. Sometimes you're the recognition owner and you have to be the communicators. So you can't do everything. So set realistic goals about what you want to achieve, what you want to have happen, and how you're going to measure that. And one way to do this, because there's a lot to communications around recognition, is to try and create perhaps a thematic structure that will help you keep things simple, but allow the structure to help expand your thinking for ideas. Let me give you an example. With my Authentic Recognition blog, I have structured the themes that I write under being strategy, leadership, learning, recognition practices, and recognition programs. So 5 themes that I structure my content under. And what's wonderful is that you can't help but have, in a sense, a lens. I mean, I could say I have 2 lenses here on my glasses, but it's like having 5 lenses that I'm looking at the world and looking at recognition through. And so when you have that kind of organization, that category structure, it allows you to expand your opportunities for creativity. Let me give you a point. There is no new idea under the sun. Just wrote last week, for example, on culture. So culture was coming up. I get asked questions about how do you create a recognition culture. And in the beginning, I used to have presentations about creating a recognition culture. So one of my category themes is under strategy. And so I would put that under strategy. Now, over the years, I guess in the last 10 years, I've kind of refuted the idea of creating a recognition culture. Why? Well, as I've looked at it and did all the searches and continue to analyze the area, the communication field on culture, really you only need one culture, and that's your organizational culture. Yes, you need recognition practices. Yes. You need recognition programs. Yes. But you need your culture, one culture, to drive everything that you do in your organization, let alone recognition. So it's because you have these structural ideas, you have the needs that are identified, you can start looking at things differently because you've got that structure. So it becomes kind of a tool to help you create and generate ideas. So you've got your recognition plan in place. Now what I want to suggest is that you create a recognition communication calendar. Now, typically we think of cyclical events when we're thinking of calendaring, and I certainly want to support that. So obviously we've just gone through this month with Employee Appreciation Day, for example. You can use Chase's calendar of events to look up every themed category, subject idea under the sun associated almost with every day of the week, or month rather, that exists. If you want to go that far, certainly you can do that. Naturally, within your own organization, You want to calendar your service or career anniversary award celebrations or other formal award presentations that might exist. And depending on the industry you're in, you might have that profession's day or week or month. I used to be a speech language pathologist, and so May would be Communication Disorders Month, and we would have all kinds of events and communications that would go out in the month of May. Now, while I want you to keep in mind those ideas of the cyclical events, I also want to suggest that you also calendar in the recognition messaging that you need to plan out throughout the year. You want to show people what you want them to do, when you want them to do it, how you want them to do it, and that messaging and communication needs to be calendared and spread out. Because here's what happens. You'll find that some questions will come up within the organization that you can either send people back to material that you have on your actual website, or you can create new material, new articles, new content that can support people with those questions. But plotting it in throughout the year becomes a wonderful strategy so you can coordinate the kind of content, the way it's delivered, and support it. So whether it be written, audio, video, you can now kind of mesh those things in, plan them in, do batching of the creating of the content, but maybe calendaring when it's delivered to you and throughout your organization. So use all the available communication channels and understand that through your communication, you're actually providing indirect and direct education for how to give effective and meaningful recognition. I think this recognition communication calendar also becomes a powerful tool for setting expectations throughout the organization. You're kind of promoting the expectation of the organization for why we give recognition, how to give recognition, to reinforce the messages of your leaders. Create, for example, a CEO or a senior leader giving a video, for example, saying why we have the recognition programs we have, demonstrating themselves how they use the programs, how they're actively giving recognition. Having that kind of exemplary leadership is a powerful tool from your senior leaders. I think bottom line, we need to just encourage everyone not to take each other for granted. It's simple to see, whether you say you're in a hospital, for example, and you have environmental services or housekeeping, cleaning away. What you find is that these individuals, when they go into a patient's room, for example, communicate with the patients. They are the voice from the outside. They are the connectors. They do powerful things, but we often take them for granted. I don't know about you, but we see the garbage or rubbish collector, whatever you call them, wherever you are in the world, come by your houses and whether personally lifting the garbage or rubbish bin, or whether it's the actual truck that has the system for tipping and lifting. But how often do we go and thank them? So it's encouraging everyone within our organizations not to take each other for granted and start looking for the contributions that each person makes and delivers to us. All right, so we've got the planning, we've got the calendaring, but now we cannot pretend to do it all by yourself. So why not create a recognition ideas team? There's going to be people who love recognition, want to be involved, and they can be your eyes and ears for just their own ideas and for being the eyes and ears for what's going on in the organization that can deliver things for you. And it's not just within the organization, they also become the eyes and ears for things outside of the organization. They can become the content curators. So invite people to be a part of this whole recognition idea team and, check out online research articles. For example, I love going to ResearchGate or Google Scholar to look at the latest research that's going on in employee recognition. People can create ideas, but they can also be the collectors, the curators, to find this information for you. And then if you have the software and the ability or outside resources, you can use SEO searches, search engine optimization, keyword searches, aggregate that information, and just provide a wealth of information that can become content itself that you just distribute and share with links, or that you can use and create more condensed content for the people to read, view, and listen to, for example. Look outside of your industry. I created a real outside scene just to kind of create that visual for you, but look outside your industry and outside of the recognition-specific content and see if things can't relate. I've certainly found that we tend to look at things only in a very isolated way. We put blinders on, but start looking outside and seeing if there are ways in which you can apply recognition differently because of what other organizations, other industries are pursuing. And then, don't hesitate to look outside of your own department by asking department leaders, from the various business units within your organization for the various trends and insights, experiences that they have with giving recognition, being challenged by giving recognition, and kind of put that into the hopper for addressing those kind of needs within your organization. Because if one person has a problem, other people are going to have a problem too. And then finally, of course, when you're looking at ideas and generating them, it's asking questions, right? Just ask people where they're struggling with employee recognition. What needs do they have? How can we get more people participating using our programs, for example? Use your management meetings and online forums to get their suggestions for giving better recognition, questions that they might have. Questions are powerful. I often, I was speaking at a conference recently, and I always collect all kinds of questions from the audience. So when you have meetings and sessions, just collect them. The oodles of great questions. I've got one here. How do you make recognition meaningful, right? Or what about this? If you've got the certain makeup of your organization that might have to address employees in plants, like manufacturing plants, versus in the office, versus off-site employees. These are issues that we might have been a little ignorant of, might not have thought about, but getting that kind of input just gives you a wealth of ideas. So I hope that kind of helps you think of ways in which you can get new ideas for giving better recognition. And then I think there's the ways of, you've got core content, you've got basic messaging that you've been putting out and collected over time, but now you need to expand that, make it go in different directions, for example. So that's where, getting collaborative input is so critical. So use your internal collaboration tools, whether it's Microsoft Teams, Yammer, Slack, whatever methods you have. Share questions and suggestions in that way as well. Get people's input, kind of consolidating, crowdsourcing of information. Very powerful. And I think people will respect the fact that you're using their input to share throughout the organization. It doesn't have to be you all the time. Expand this messaging by getting other leaders involved. So get your O&D, organizational development people involved, and what they're doing throughout the organization. I've certainly found that they tend to be more strategic focused, and I think this is a way in which you can show how recognition can help align recognition with the strategy, with the goals that they have, the strategic initiatives. I saw one organization when they realized that one of their strategic initiatives was safety, then the recognition team was able to bring in more ideas and support and even develop new programs to support that strategic initiative. So now recognition becomes a leveraging tool to help achieve the strategic goals that an organization has, whether they be people specific or performance specific. Now work with learning and development. You might find out that they've not necessarily aligned communicating about recognition, or they may not have developed sufficient content within their e-learning or learning and development sessions that they're developing for leader development, manager development, supervisors development. Talk to your senior leaders, find out what's keeping them awake at night. And just learning that, you might go, wow, here's where recognition can come and assist. And then, of course, you can promote your online learning that reinforces recognition, feedback, positive feedback, things like this. Finally, on this area about expanding the whole recognition messaging, I think it's great insights you get from focus groups. So get employee input through that way. Identify what is working and what's not working throughout the organization. Team up with whoever has control over your employee engagement survey. See what questions are being asked. At least get the big picture of how different departments are doing throughout the organization. And you might suggest the questions that might be asked on perhaps a pulse check kind of survey that can dig deeper and go deeper on how recognition can be improved through your organization. So I hope you're seeing some different ways in which you can kind of truly make recognition fresh and inspiring throughout the whole organization by not doing it alone, by certainly reaching out, teaming up, collecting, curating information, and sharing that throughout the organization. And if you haven't done so already, we want to encourage you to create resource pages on your web portal, on your intranet, where you house your recognition platform. This is where you can encourage and invite everyone to access the resources that we've talked about so far, that you have placed in a good place to go to, but now you need to steer people there. So you need to set up email broadcasts, text messaging broadcasts, sending links to where content is on your resource pages that people can go to and dive in and learn more about how to give better, more effective recognition. And one strategy to kind of look at your information and content and to get it used is to create different lengths, different formats of your content. So we've seen it with certain organizations where we created 1-minute reads, 3-minute reads. You can create short videos and more longer, more tutorial-based video content. You can have magazine articles and reference to books, and hopefully you'll have a place where you can have a lending library within your organization of those kind of books that they should be reading. And then you use different mediums, different formats, whether it be written content, whether it be audio content such as podcasts, video content that we've already described in your e-learning, giving access to that, and maybe even checklists and infographics or downloadable checklists and guides that people can use. There's just a wealth of information, but don't make it complicated. Just kind of create 5, 10, dozen, whatever you can manage. If you're doing it all, you can only do a few. If you've got communications team you can work with, learning and development team you can work with, they can assist you in creating this content that can be housed on your resource pages. And we can help you too through Rideau. We do this all the time, and be pleased to be able to help you in any way that we can in creating this kind of content. So I kind of sum up with this kind of point on recognition communications, and that is that you can never communicate enough about the importance and need for giving effective and meaningful recognition. And too often we allow communications to just be a kind of a one-time thing, maybe launching a program, for example, and then we wonder why people aren't using the program, or we have an engagement survey and we're not doing so well at giving effective recognition. It's communications and getting fresh, inspiring ideas happening that will make it work and be more effective, and calendaring throughout the year and staging and broadcasting that content out so that people feel that recognition is important in our organization and they have the tools and resources to know how to do it well. So Tommy Lee, I guess we've come to that magic time where we see if we have some questions and comments that have been submitted.
Yes, we do. I don't know. It's because maybe more people are working at home this week.
Uh-huh.
We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'll try to get through them all.
Oh, wonderful.
Shannon says, "Thank you, Roy. Get rid of emails, folks. Short videos are the way. Going to show this to my boss."
And you know, it's a combination, and we need to remember that each individual likes to receive the content the best way possible. And often, though we might create the videos, email is still probably the most powerful communication tool for making people aware the video exists.
Exists, right.
So it's depending on how we house it, how we communicate these resources. We have found that in many cases, you can have all the resources under the sun housed on your resource page, and no one goes there because they don't know it's there.
Exactly. And like you said, it's a great delivery message, but come on. I mean, once you click on that email and see all those words, sometimes you're just like, I'm going to save this for later, and later never comes. And before you know it, another week has gone by and you're getting another email about.
Exactly.
I'm very
house them on your social recognition program, wherever you need to put it, right?
Yep. Jason says, "Any ideas on how to use recognition to keep us safe and wash hands when we return to work? My office has about 55 employees in the office and 40 in trucks." I assume delivery. People that are not in the office. 55 employees, 40 that are in trucks.
Okay. Well, I won't pretend with our new circumstance around the COVID-19 coronavirus, and people
we were just talking about that before we went on the air. Yeah.
It's like all of a sudden I'm seeing touching door handles of the truck and steering wheels and everything. Oh my goodness. But, there must be ways in which everyone is receiving messaging. And I think this is where you need to have a sit down virtual meeting. I don't know how we're going to do it for each organization.
Right.
But find out what works for people, how they like to receive the communication. We used to do huddles, like different groups, different organizations would have huddles or pre-shift meetings. With all that's happening, maybe that's not going to happen. But the key is we still need to communicate. And I think we can recognize people. We can thank people for taking the time to spend at least 20 seconds washing their hands. I mean, it's simple things, but saying this is important. Our organization is deeming this as important. We're supporting the nation. We're supporting our public health officials, and just thanking people and giving inspiring messages that we can get through this. This is the kind of record. It's a little different. It's inspirational messaging.
Right.
It's thanking people for doing the basics.
For doing the basics to keep ourselves, your family, our community.
Absolutely.
I mean, I like what you said about the messaging. Maybe the ground floor of all of us should be to have that messaging in the bathrooms. When you're doing the huddles, about how important it is to keep yourselves clean, or even just tiny, gifts like, when everybody's back to work, and like, here's a little bottle of hand sanitizer.
Yep.
And we appreciate you, and we want you to stay healthy. Don't forget to sanitize when you can. Yep. Just something as simple as that. I mean, I'm not sure if there's an actual program or safety program you can do. I haven't. I mean,
you certainly can use safety programs to, again, recognize people for doing safe practices, rewarding people who are making an exceptional difference around the whole safety. And I think many of our organizations have people who are going above and beyond around, the whole safety issues right now. And those people, deserve, for their results that they're doing, to be rewarded, for example. And speaking of trucks, I'm sure they've got to have CBs. Right?
Yes, yes, yes.
So imagine putting out a CB messaging by someone who does that every day,
What a great
or several
idea.
times, key points along
Yeah,
the day.
yeah.
This is your, recognition moment, and here's your safety moment, whatever,
What a great idea.
10-4.
10-4. Let's see. Sophie says, we haven't refreshed recognition in 6 or 7 years. We can probably refresh, but I'm not sure about inspiring people. I don't know if that. Well, you want to refresh, but I like how you're putting inspire too, because you're tackling this anyway, refreshing it. Let's inspire them. How do you bridge the gap between refreshing and inspiring? I think that's what she's trying to say.
I think so. And refreshing can sometimes, you could just do a rebrand and you've refreshed.
Right.
And nobody would
ever
use the program.
Right, exactly.
We do. You mentioned spring cleaning. We do spring cleaning, but do we use the room? Do we dirty it up? All those kind of things. So, inspiring. It comes from inspire, which means to give the spirit. And I think we can be more enthusiastic. I think we can smile more. I think we need to communicate the kind of best human practices of giving recognition. And what's wonderful is that with recognition programs, it just translates. A program is a tool to help people express recognition. So, when we've used on our webinars before, and so we encourage you to go back and look at the previous webinars we've done.
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about being specific with recognition rather than just saying good job or well done, these are the ways we can become more inspiring with our recognition. When we show care and concern for people, along with our regular recognition practices, that's when we're inspiring people. When we're taking time to observe what people are doing and make the time to comment on what people are doing, that's when we're inspiring. Because in a lot of cases, you'll find a lot of organizations say, I've seen it. A third of their workforce says, I've not been recognized in a year. So it's just doing these little things, but doing it better. There's good, there's better, and there's best. We might be good at giving recognition, but what can we do better? And if each person takes that attitude on, what can I do better? And then I'm doing better. What can I do best?
Right.
I think then you're inspiring throughout the organization.
Wow. I got goosebumps. That was inspiring. You will see that clip again, ladies and gentlemen. I guarantee you. That was really great, Roy.
Thank you.
Very inspiring. Let's see. Jack says, I didn't know there's calendars beyond the normal celebrated holidays. Where do I find them?
Oh, basic holiday. I think it's
just do a Google search.
So there was Chase's calendar.
Is that what you were talking
about? I think it's Macmillan. I can't remember the publishing company that acquired Chase's calendar.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also do a search for online just for, various holidays and occasions.
Right.
And you'll probably find some online stuff without having to purchase Chase's calendar. You'll get a whole ton of them.
There's a lot of them out there.
There's a lot of them out there.
Yeah, there's a lot of them out there, Jack. Just do Google search. And Chase definitely has a nice one, but there's tons out there.
Sure. So that's the fun side, but I wouldn't stress over those. I would make sure that you're calendaring in messages that you want to convey on various practices, on various usage of your programs. If the program's not being used well, so now you've got to say which program's not being used well. Right. How do people, what tutorials do we need to create? So there's a video that you now create with screen capture of how to use your program, for example. And then how do we plot that in? Do we repurpose it at different times? People want maybe a guide or a checklist or a cheat sheet on how to use the program. You create one of those, you calendar it, you plan it, you distribute it. I would be more concerned about getting the message out and just trickle out some of the more event things, the cyclical things. Just use some of those, but be more focused on the messaging.
On the messaging.
Yeah.
JJ says, how do we begin to look outside? How do we begin to look outside? Are there specific blogs or sites? I think he's referring to when you're like, look outside of your office for inspiration.
Yep. Well, you can literally look for forums on any topic. You can look for blogs on the topic of recognition. That's one way. Just do a search that way. You could go to Amazon, start searching in employee recognition. And what I do, just to give everybody a feel for what I do, I'll go to different books, and it might not always be recognition. It might be feedback. It might be performance. It might be human resource, latest books on human resource management. And what's wonderful is you can have a look inside the book online. You don't even have to go buy the book. You can look at the contents,
right?
Look at the chapters, and go, oh my goodness, that's just the chapters alone are going to give you, the chapter titles are going to give you ideas.
Absolutely.
Then I do things like, I do belong to ResearchGate, and I look up articles, research articles that is. I look for the recognition significance behind some of that content. And I'll apply it to the content that I'm creating. There's times where I might literally go on a rabbit hole search where all of a sudden, an article I read, and then I don't just read the articles. I'll look for the researchers, or I'll look for the authors, and then I'll search the author, and then, they've written about this, and now I go look for that article or someone else's article. Right. Because what's wonderful about research is that they list all the references at the back.
Right.
And so all of a sudden, it's going to be one of those articles that stimulates a thought. And then don't hesitate to look at different webinars that are coming through. And I'm sure if you subscribe to enough things, you're getting invited to different webinars yourself, not only ours, but other organizations and other subject matter experts. And then that will take you on a whole discovery path as well. So I would say, try and see if you're responsible for recognition, and if you're responsible for getting this kind of communications out, spend an hour a week just doing some searching and have fun. Now, this is fun. This is like being a detective, trying to find exciting content that will stimulate, inspire, and be refreshing to your organization.
There's no need to reinvent the wheel. There's so much resources out there we've done. I mean, if they start with your blog, Roy, I honestly believe that would be a great place for anybody who's looking for content and inspiration, because you've touched on so many different topics. I mean, it's almost endless, the amount of topics. You've dissected this recognition, engagement, culture thing, bit by bit over the years, many, many, many years. And so I would just personally, I would recommend that's a place to start. I wish I had it when I started recognition back 20 years ago, because, I was looking at, a whole bunch of different places, and there just weren't that many resources out there at the tip of my fingers.
Right.
Before I go to this last one, Carol is her name. I wanted to inject a comment, and that was something, and I always learn something on almost every webinar you've done. The takeaway from this one, Roy, was about you rethinking recognition as its own culture, instead of it being just part of who we are, basically. And it takes me back to when, after recognition, I went into the diversity space.
Right.
And I wanted diversity to be one of the key points of recognition. I'm coming right from recognition, so I understand how recognition is so important to drive results, right?
Right.
And I talked to the CEO, and I said, look, we really need to have diversity as part of one of our at that time, the company I worked for had 5 major recognition goals to move 5 different KPIs, key performance indicators. So I wanted diversity to be number 6, and she told me no. She said, no, diversity is who we are. It is not a program. It is not a goal. It's not going to be something that we recognize to try to move the bar on. She said, diversity is going to be who this company is. It is our culture. It's who we are.
Love it.
And I walked out of that office mad because I didn't get my way. I wish I could tell you it's like, oh, there was a light bulb moment, and there wasn't. I was mad. I didn't get my way. I thought she was wrong, but it took 2 or 3 years for that to really sink in, to really get to what she was talking about. Yeah. So it just that story reminded me of what you were talking about, recognition.
You don't have to create a recognition culture, just develop and enhance your own culture, and it will drive practices like recognition, like diversity.
Exactly. That's exactly what she was saying. Her name was Kathy Ryan. Love you, Kathy. And she was the CEO of the company I worked for. But anyway, it just reminded me of that. So thank you for bringing that to my attention, and a reminder for me. Sorry, are we on now?
Yep. Sounds good.
I'm mute for a second. So just thank you for that reminder, and for anybody else who's watching.
You're welcome.
I'm sure there's several out there that will take that tip, and they may be mad at you today, Roy, but they'll come around. I guarantee you. Carol says, and I saved this one for last. Roy, I would like to recognize you for all the info I steal month after month. It's really made a difference. Thank you, sir.
Wow. Isn't that lovely?
That's really good. Thank you, Carol, for doing that. Yeah. And I feel the same way. I know many people do. So, I'm going to piggyback off Carol's comment, and thanks for just keeping this fresh and inspiring every single time you do it, Roy, honestly.
You're welcome.
How do we contact you, Roy, if we have any other questions or maybe future topics?
So remember, we just talked about soliciting questions, ideas from people. Please email me yours at roysaunderson@redo.com. You can follow me on my Twitter handle, Roy Saunderson. And of course, as Tommy Lee mentioned, you can read more of my blog posts at authenticrecognition.com. My latest book, Practicing Recognition, which if you go to the blog and you can sign up there to get a copy. And if you want to know more about our wonderful company at Redo Recognition Solutions, certainly please visit us at redo.com. Give us a call, reach out. We can help you with your communication needs if you wish, as well as the recognition programs that we certainly support many companies with on being able to give the best recognition possible to make those recognition moments really connect with your employees, the real recognition, and give people the kind of experience they want when recognition should be given. So please reach out to us. Let us know how we can help you. Thank you again for joining with us.
Thank you, Roy. Stay safe.
That we will. Take care, Tommy Lee.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.